Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This particular presentation, brothers and sisters, we do not intend for it to be long, but brothers and sisters, we do want to bring this out to the people for edification purposes. We hope and pray that everybody is well and will be better. This presentation is brought to you, brothers and sisters, from Danite Publications. We ask you all to comment, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, brothers and sisters. We ask you, if it be in your heart and if you are in good spirits, to please type in the number 4. Thank you for that. If you can hear me well, and if you are in good spirits, please type in the number 4. We are on the channel, Mora Yeshaya Torah Lessons, as well as the channel, Mora Yeshaya History Lessons, and the Facebook page, that is to say, Yeshaya Author Danite. I want to say on a human level that I am appreciative and I respect the fact of my lady Sarai and of my dear brother Yirmiyahu, who usually accompany a brother once it comes down to these particular presentations and lessons and so forth and so on. To the people who do comment, like, share, and subscribe, because I can look at the analytics and see that that is done, it is definitely appreciated. Brothers and sisters, I do not profess to know everything, and I am open, brothers and sisters, to constructive criticism. Without any further ado, we are going to, brothers and sisters, start off in prayer, and then we are going to move on in that particular manner. Thank you for that. Hallelujah. El Rahman Warofenu, merciful God and our doctor. Terachim Aleinu, you have mercy upon us. Watirpa Kolanu, and we heal all of us. Kianaknu or Kali, for we are in sickness. Wa Anaknu Zorakim Okai, and we need you. Lehiyot Imanu, to be with us. Leopold Lanu, to heal for us. Kol Makalot Tenu, all of our sicknesses. Makalot Baruach, sicknesses of spirit. Makalot Gisha, sicknesses of attitude. Makalot Guf, sicknesses of the body. Eloheinu, Elohe Abutenu, our power and the power of our forefathers. Tiyanai in Tapenu, be with our little ones. Imotenu, our mothers. Abotenu, our fathers. Yaladenu, our children. Wagam et Akinu, wa Akyotenu, Wagam King Ziknenu, wa Zikunotenu. Be with our male and female elders and our brothers and our sisters. Keep Bilioka, for without you, and Yeno Yakolim la Asotsu the bar, for without you we can do nothing. No de Lefanekaya Elahenu, we give thanks unto you, O Yah, the Olam Wa'ed, the darkness our King forever and ever and for eternity. Hallelujah. Amen. Brothers and sisters, again, we hope and pray that everybody is well and will be better. We are going to continue in this particular matter by pulling up the matter of the PowerPoint, brothers and sisters, in this particular case. And yes, it is postponed until this time. So we appreciate the people with the patience with everything that was going on, nothing negative, but just things that were necessary. And at the same token, we want to show the seriousness in what one is about. When you, speaking in general, dedicate yourself and dedicate something to the Most High, that's not something, brothers and sisters, that you want to sit there and play with. That's not something, brothers and sisters, that you want to take for granted. It is a luxury and a privilege to be able to come and share this word unto the people. So without any further ado, brothers and sisters, we are going to pull this up. All right. Go here in this particular case. if we will. Thank you for that, family. I'm going to remove that right there. Go to the banners. Thank you for that, family. Remove that. Because I noticed that when I rewatched the video, sometimes even the thing that's on the top right side stands in the way. And I don't want that. So just going to remove each of those things in that particular case, if we will. Brothers and sisters, pull this up from here, from that particular matter. Thank you for that. Shalom. Giving honor to the Most High. This presentation is brought to you from darenightpublications.com. We ask you to check the website. That is a website itself, darenightpublications.com. We hope you all are well and will be better. This is the history of Hanukkah part 2. We ask you all to subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share. Brothers and sisters, before we get into this, we did a presentation on the channel, Mordeh Yeshaya Torah Lessons, not too long ago. And the theme of it was forsake the foolish and live and go in the way of understanding. I check the comments ever so often, and what I'm saying is no slander to no brother, sister, elder, or youth, or anyone, brothers and sisters, Shem, Ham, or Japhet. But what we want to point out is this. I did a presentation that was called The Matter of the Scattering Matter, hyphen of the Hebrews. And I got a comment on one of the channels that said, why won't you say Israelite as opposed to Hebrew? And usually when I get a comment that is not, no disrespect intended, favorably or so forth and so on, I do take the liberty to look at one's page to see if I can see if it's a troll, to sit there and see if it's even worth one's time. Because remember, forsaking the foolish and live and go in a way of understanding. As me, in my personal life, I get closer with my lady. We understand that Ecclesiasticus says, marry your daughter, but give her to a man of understanding. So now, if we are to do things in understanding, and to walk away from understanding is to walk into the congregation of the dead. And I say this in no slander. Brothers and sisters, if anyone listened to that particular presentation, which was done, if I remember right, that was a so-called Saturday night or so-called Saturday or so on. And it's on the channel Mordeh Yeshaya History Lessons. Mordeh Yeshaya History Lessons 2, as well as the Facebook page Yeshaya Author Danite, and it's about the scattering of the Hebrews. And when I saw that the person, no disrespect intended, was, for the lack of a better term, quote, repping or representing a camp, me myself being a part of no particular camp, and I'm not going to ever tell anyone he or she should not be of such, I had to sit back and say, well, one of the reasons why I chose to say on the title of it, Hebrews as opposed to Israelites, is, no disrespect intended, the name of Israel or Israelite has been tarnished. This is why, for those who may know, when I did the book From Assyria to America, I called it The Travel of the Hebrews, from Avaris to Alabama, the journey of the Hebrews. See, it's not that one doesn't say that one is an Israelite, because if you listen to the video, Israel, Judah, Zion, Jacob, Israel, Judah, Zion, Israelite, Yisrael, etc., it's stated throughout. The name of the channel is called Mordeh Yeshaya History Lessons. Yeshaya Yisrael is part of my Facebook name and so on. So nobody is hiding from the name of Israel. But at the same token, when one school has a history of doing physical attacks upon another school, no, this is not to get sidetracked. You're not in the spirit of the Maccabees. The Maccabees was not going around looking to sit there and make problems with other Israelites. You understand? And so forth and so on. We're going to read part of that in this particular case. So when I began to sit back and look and see, like, okay, this is camp orientated. What do I mean when I say introduction, if we will, with the time allotted? Thank you all, knowing that it's already past 9 p.m. on the Eastern Standard Time, school night, work night for some, right? It says that the children of Israel journeyed and encamped, and then they journeyed and they encamped, and then they journeyed and they encamped. Some go to say camp and stop there in their journey. And that, brothers and sisters, is not always say the best thing. This again is not saying that somebody should not be part of a camp. I am not saying that. I spoke about my mother bringing me into this way of life, and that was inside of a place of worship / a camp. You understand? So I will never tell anyone, having gone through a camp, that one should not go to or through a camp. And I want to point that out for reference purposes. Nonetheless, when you take the ideology of your camp leaders and then try to bring it into the internet world, into the broader world, into the academic world, it's not intelligent, it's not wise, it's not bright. You understand what I mean? So I said, well, the reason why I chose to use Hebrew on the video in the title as opposed to Israelites, because in part the name of Israel has been tarnished, and you want to reach the people, brothers and sisters. So you want to bring it out from the camp and bring it to the relatives that's thinking about putting the tree up and the balls and the decorations that fasten it with nails and hammers, that it move not with silver and gold on the tree that's inside the house. That's who you want to reach. You understand? Well, you may want to sit there and reach out to people that's living a certain kind of life. If you go and speak mainly only to those who believe and understand and know what you know, you have done nothing but regurgitate the same information back and forth. That's not progress. That's not growth. In the 1980s, one of the things that I remember hearing is, well, you felt good going to that service, but did you learn anything? And in certain cases, Israelites, no disrespect intended, have got a good field service and have not learned anything. But again, at the same token, a brother will say, pick your own teacher. I may not be the teacher for you. You understand? So, and if you're not picked as one's teacher, don't be in your feelings or feel a way about it, such as life. Do the mission that the Most High God has you to do. And that right there is what is important, brothers and sisters. That is the focus and what is to be remembered, brothers and sisters, when you present yourself as a free will offering, having not been told, thou shalt do this. You was not called as a prophet to do this, but you're saying, yeah, I would like to donate the time to teach your word unto the people, brothers and sisters. So take it seriously, take it respectfully. Know that there are people that are listening, some who may like, some who may not like. But if you're not there for likes, but rather to get a point across, then that shouldn't be your issue and your problem or your concern. Just do the mission. So in closing that particular matter out, forsaking the foolish and live and going the way of understanding, I said, you know what? Well, let me not offend you, because your school has a history of being on the internet, calling the police on other schools and attacking other Israelites. No names need to be mentioned of what school is what. But for those who know, brothers and sisters. So that's just something to just sit there and just let it slide by in that particular case. Brothers and sisters, and giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the maker of heaven and earth. We're going to continue in this particular matter, asking you all to comment, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for that. Let us continue in this. It goes to say, brothers and sisters, inside of the book of Maccabees. We're going to be mainly reading, brothers and sisters, in First Maccabees. All right. Chapter 3. Then his son Judas, called Maccabeus, rose up in his stead. Now this is after Matitya, the father of them, passed away. And all his brethren helped him. And so did all they that held with his father, and they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So he got his people great honor and put on the breastplate as a giant and girt his warlike harness about him. And he made battles, protecting the host with his sword. So brothers and sisters, Israel, we see here, was about war. Israel was about being defenders and in certain cases, offenders. And what I mean by offenders is not as a slander, but as the person who has been assaulted, disrespected, and is retaliating after, say, X, Y, and Z time. There is, in truth, no set rules to wars, in so many words, if you correct me if I'm wrong. Some people look at what Samson did, what the matter with the riddle against the Philistines. They say, well, the people who he went against were not the people of that same city, but it's called war. So if your people are at war, Everyone needs to be alert in what's going on. What sadly, no disrespect intended, has happened with some of us as a people is we are having war made against us, but we don't realize it. So we're easily defeated because we don't realize that there's actually a war that has been waged, brothers and sisters. So in light of that, let's continue in this. It goes on to say, in his acts, he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp, warring for his prey. For he pursued the wicked and sought them out, and burnt up those that vexed his people. So, this being part of the character of Judas Maccabees, he was what you call in today's terminology, a nationalist. Wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand. So, salvation, success. The wicked doesn't want you to be successful, be it at a job, be it at school, be it at so-called friends. So when people know that you got that light, like it says there in his acts, he was like a lion. That's why the lion picture is there in that case. And like a lion's whelp, warring for his prey, cry aloud and spare not. For he went to do what? To avenge for his people the things that was going on. And we went over in History of Hanukkah Part 1 some of the things that was going on with guarding, say, with the children of Israel. The sad situation. They looking to get slaves of the Israelites and so forth and so on. People making war against the Israelites, telling the house of Israel that you can't keep your culture no more, and so forth and so on. So these are things, brothers and sisters, we want to bring out to the people. Let's continue. It goes on to say, he grieved also many kings, and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever. Brothers and sisters, please point out in history when the person who held down the slave as a mandingo to be captured by the slave master was rewarded. How many Israelites essentially named their children Delilah, Vashti, Datan, Abiram? See, Yehuda Maccabee, there are several people with the name Yehuda or Judah that they take, brothers and sisters. So now when we go right here and it says, and his memorial is blessed forever. Yes, the things that you do now, even though Judas Maccabees, when you get to First Maccabees chapter 9 in your own time, he passed away in war. But his memory, that's what counts. What memory are we leaving, brothers and sisters? My teacher asked in the year 1991, saying the 21st century is 9 years away. What are we doing for our children? That was stated over 30 years ago. What is the legacy that's being left? Proverbs teaches us that a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. So it's, again, not just about, in general, you. It's about the collective. What good are you bringing to the people, whatever it may be? What talent, what gift, what support can you bring to the people, regardless of whether it is knowing how to sew a button or knowing how to sit there and teach somebody how to fence, as in a war tactic, whether you teaching somebody how to plant a tree, or whether it's a matter of teaching someone how to make lasagna. Whatever you can do, that is a blessing. Do it. When it says, cursed be he who does the work of the Most High deceitfully. Some translators say, cursed be he who doeth the work of the Most High with a slack hand. So if you are able to have ability to do something, the Most High is giving you the ability to do something, and you slacking it, you're playing games with it, you're not being upright with it, that's not good. Your gift is not an accident. You understand? So these are things, brothers and sisters, we care to point out for reference purposes. I can be reached at the number, as you see there, 908-587-4841. Let's continue, brothers and sisters. Proverbs 22 and Ecclesiasticus 9. Cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease. I'm sure a brother heard that proverb before as a child. But that proverb was also cited in the movie Menace to Society by the grandfather when he was talking about in the movie his grandson. The things that you did, Cain, in the movie, don't knock on Mr. Turner in real life. The role that you was playing, you did above and beyond. You did too much. This is contrary to what the Maccabees was about. Why did I put this there? It goes on to say, envy not the glory of the sinner, for thou knowest not what his end shall be. So, brothers and sisters, when we look at something like in Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha chapter 9, it says what? Envy not the glory of the sinner. That is in contrast to what we can say about Judas Maccabees, when it distinctly says, wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand. See, he was about, when we talk about Hanukkah and rededication, he wasn't about what the guy playing Cain was about in a movie, which was taking away from your people, which was hurting your people, which was disrespectful to your people. Now, in the movie, just to use this as an example, last time we went on Hanukkah, we spoke about the movie Boys in the Hood as an example to show the reality of such, right? Let's look at this here. In this movie, in this scene, the guy said, I thought we were supposed to be brothers. See, that was supposed to sit there and make you go, you know what, you're right, man, I'm tripping. Let me not even sit there and do that. You understand? Knowledge in that particular movie and gems in that particular movie was supposed to sit there and be dropped all throughout that movie. Yo, man, why you tripping on us, man? You got a father. So you got a grandmother and a grandfather, but you don't listen to them. So what's the point? That was another line in the movie. So you got to sit there and take heed to that. And as the brother typed in, righteousness exalts a nation. The same grandfather who said the proverb that said, cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out, yea, strife and reproach shall cease. He asked his grandson, Cain, do you care whether you live or die? And he looked at him and said, I don't know. Now, when you go in the prophecies of Jeremiah, it says death shall be preferred more than life. So now, when we go into the timing of Hanukkah and how all of this can connect, the people were so depressed and so saddened by some of the things going on. They was like, what is the point? Like it says in there, when Matthias said, what's the point of my life, seeing the desolation of my people? Something got to give. Something got to change. We concluded the last presentation concerning Hanukkah about a parent divvying up responsibilities. You understand? And knowing and divvying up responsibilities, the importance of a particular matter, who to put in what position, and so forth and so on. So these are things we care to point out. Let's go in and continue, brothers and sisters. First Maccabees 3, verse 10. Then Apollonius gathered the Gentiles together and a great host out of Samaria to fight against Israel. Sidebar, the Samaritans were they who were Zidonians and others who were in the land of Israel after the Assyrians came against the Israelites. Now in your own time, as you see there, when you go into the book of 2 Kings chapter 17, the Assyrian king Tiglath-Pileser replaced Israelites inside of what was the lands of the northern kingdom with people who were Hamitic, Zidonians and otherwise. You understand? So what then do we care to sit there and bring out and point out in this for reference purposes? And that is, brothers and sisters, the Israelites being scattered, the Israelites wondering what to do, the Israelites and the matter of what they was dealing with winded up dealing with certain matters as thus we see here. So again, brothers and sisters, these are things we care to bring out, all right? Apollonius was a spokesman for Antiochus IV, era being such in 173 BCE. All right, so we've gone over a timeline. When you go into the other matter of Hanukkah, part 1, that's why we go for part 1, part 2, and so on. Okay, there will be a part 3, sidebar. All right, now let's look. Lysias was the chancellor of Antiochus IV. Nicanor, Ptolemy, and Georgius were the generals of Lysias. So you have Antiochus IV, and under him was Lysias, And under Lysias was Nicanor, Ptolemy, not one of the Ptolemies that we spoke of before, but a different one, and Georgius. So these are just things we care to point out to show you that even with these other peoples who were Greeks or so forth, they had rank and file as well. You understand? So we can get the names, dates, times, places, maps, and so forth for edification purposes. Thank you for that. All right. Let's continue, family, in this particular case. Thank you for that. Now when Sarai, a prince of the army of Syria, heard say that Judas had gathered unto him a multitude and company of the faithful to go out with war to him. What do we mean when it says there about a faithful? Know who's in your army. The rap group Mobb Deep spoke and said, what? We're going to keep the language clean. Watch those people that are close to you. Eye for eye, your beef is mine. Those kind of things and so forth and so on. Know who's in your circle. Know who's in your circle, family. Ask questions. There's nothing wrong with that. Know who's in your circumference and what people's mindset is based upon and what based about, if we will. You understand? So let us continue with the timing allotted. Thank you for that. It goes on to say, he said, I will get me a name and honor in the kingdom, for I will go fight with Judas and them that are with him, who despise the king's commandment. Now, last time we went over some of those king's commandments, breaking the Shabbat, sacrificing unto idols, chapels of idols, uncircumcision, eating unclean. Those are some of the king's commandments. So he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of the ungodly to help him, and to be avenged of the children of Israel. So don't sleep. These nations are not sleeping on us, so we need not, quote, sleep upon them. And when he came near to the going up of Bet-Taron, Judas went forth to meet with him with a small company, who, when they saw the host coming to meet them, said unto Judas or Yahuda, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against so great multitude and so strong, seeing we are ready to faint with fasting all this day? So what the Israelites was telling Yehuda Maccabee is that we're dealing with a lot. We have not really eaten. We're not that large in number. Mind you, these are still called the people who are the faithful, unto whom Yehuda answered, it is not hard matter for many to be shut up in the hands of a few. And with the Elohim, the God of heaven, it is all one, to deliver with a great multitude or a small company. So don't ever let numbers sit there and make you wonder, you know? Don't ever sit there and let numbers sit there and phase you. You understand? You have maybe some people who might want to jump ship, change understandings, ideologies, maybe because you're getting, quote, more views. But let me tell you something as a brother on YouTube or so on, right? Every view is not a good view. Sidebar, let's talk about something else and putting it in perspective. Suge Knight does not have the best representation as a name as a people. He's actually in jail for murder. Suge Knight offered X amount of thousands of dollars to a legend in the rap game or the rap music world called Big Daddy Kane. Well, you know, you're a legend, and you know, and if you do this, and you know, you can have Decibel East. Big Daddy Kane looked at that and was like, no, I'm not interested. You know why? Because every dollar is not a good dollar, brothers and sisters. And Big Daddy Kane knew and understood that. Shalom to the people inside of the Facebook, Adonia, and my biological family, Yakina. Shalom if you're here. How's everybody doing? If you can hear well, if you're in good spirits, please type in the number 4. So, brothers and sisters, what are we saying in this particular case? Is that Sarai, prince of the army of Syria, he said, you know what? I'm going to sit there and get me a name. And I'm going to go up against the house of Israel. Do you know there are people who are opportunistics that still come up against our people? Hey, look, everyone, I'm against the, quote, Negro, the true house of Israel. How you running for president? You East Indian, Washarami, or whatever your name is, and I don't mean no disrespect and mispronouncing it, right? But how you going to be an East Indian in a European-based country like the United States and sit there and say that Juneteenth doesn't hold any weight? That's not your argument. That's a person who's running with the Republican ticket that's similar to this guy, Saran, anytime you get Apocrypha that says, you know what, yeah, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to get me a name, you're going to see what's going to wind up happening too, brothers and sisters, because even though it's against Israel, you're not even fighting with the right spirit. You're looking to get yourself a name. You're not looking to sit there and just, I'm going to defend my people, even if it's against the house of Israel. And I say this as an Israelite. These Ptolemies and these Seleucids who were of the line of the Greeks or whatever coming against Israel, this particular gentleman right here didn't even have the right mentality. He's thinking about self, not in the matter like Judean Maccabees came with in spirit that said, brother, when we fight with a multitude or with a few, if we fighting with the name of the God of heaven, everything will be okay. Everything will be well. That's how you encourage the people. But when you're doing for self and being selfish, you're not able to motivate the people. You're just about oneself. And so let's look at it right here, brothers and sisters, and continue in this. Now, I put this map here and I want to show with the laser pointer, right, what we're talking about with the time allotted. I know it's after 10 o'clock. Brothers and sisters on a work night, a school night for some. And I know this was postponed, and I definitely do appreciate the people who are taking out the time to listen live. Let's look. Here's Jerusalem, right? Here's Emmaus. This is going to become important when we get later on in this and later on. So I want to show with the pen, if I may, Jerusalem. They fled from Jerusalem already for secure or wherever they can go. We pointed this out last time when we spoke on Hanukkah last week or Thursday before last Thursday, if we will. So this place, Emmaus, becomes very important because this is where a battle is going to be. So take note of that, brothers and sisters. Where they are right now, we want to show it a different color, if we will. If I can, in black. The Beth Horon, the upper one, and then here's the lower one in this particular case. So they already fled Jerusalem, went to Modin, and wound up going wherever they can for the matter of security. All right. Now let's remember this. Judas from hills of Gophna. Let's remember that, what we just see circled right there. And we see right here is Sarai, the coon of his own people. I want to give myself a name kind of mentality, goes to Judea to suppress the revolt. And let's see what happens. Let's continue, family. Thank you for that. For the victory of the battle standeth not in the multitude of a host, but strength coming from heaven. Now, when you read there, when it says strength from heaven, it's talking about strength coming from the one who controls the heaven, the Most High. All right. So these are things we care to point out for reference purposes. It goes on to say, they come against us in much pride and iniquity destroy us, and our wives and children and to spoil us. Brothers and sisters, when these people go to war, they're not just going to war against just the men. And this is something that, no disrespect intended, I remember speaking with my mother, may she rest in peace. She was reading books back even when I was a teenager. And she read something that was essentially saying that with the whole women's lib movement, it was not, and I say this for the lack of a better term, Shaniqua, Shaquana, Aisha, and Shaquana. The women's lib movement was not for sisters. It was for Nancy, Susan, and Peggy. So now remember, like in Vietnam War, not to get too drastic out there, my father, may he rest in peace, was in the Vietnam War, right? A lot of men thought, oh, I'm going to just go and sleep with the women of these other nations and so forth and so on. But then they had to wind up declaring you MIA or dead on arrival, because what the women of the Vietnamese who were not going against their men, but being intimate with other men of other nations in war, used to have razor blades that used to cut the genitals of the males who were being sexual with them. I spoke with several people about that who knew about that. This is not the Sabbath, so I'm going to take the liberty to get a little out there if I may. They would take something like a tennis ball and put a razor blade within it, put it inside of their genitalia, and offer sexual acts or favors to the men. And when the American soldiers will go in unto them, to use the biblical term, their genitalia will get cut up. That is what happened in war. See, war is not pretty, brothers and sisters. So now when you have to go in there with the correct kind of mindset to know what in the world is going on, These are things, brothers and sisters, that we're talking about for edification purposes. You can't go in there with, I am an if and any. We're going to show in the next presentation, brothers and sisters, part 3, that Judas Maccabees said, if you just got a house, if you just got a wife, if you just planted a vineyard, don't come in this war. Because we don't need any soldiers there. My wife, my lady, my boo, my love. This war ain't for you. Oh, man, I got to get back to that TV. You understand? We just put that screen up. Nope, the war ain't for you. I just became vegetarian and I want my vegetables. This war ain't for you. So if you are just, as we pointed out, going to point out, sorry, about that vegetable life and planting gardens, if you're about that family life, as far as you just got a wife, or if you just about, listen, man, I'm just doing me, working to pay these bills, this war ain't for you. Get those who are built for this. And this is no slander or disrespect to anybody, brothers and sisters. You understand, for edification purposes. It goes on to say, but we fight for our lives and our lords. Wherefore, the Lord himself, Yah himself, will overthrow them before our face. And as for you, you should not be afraid of them. Now, as soon as he had left off speaking, he leaped suddenly from them. And so Sarai and his host was overthrown before him. And he pursued them from the going down of Bet Horon unto the plain, where was slain about 800 men of them. And a residue fled into the land of the Philistines. See? Your man Sarai came in with a different spirit. I'm going to get me a name, and that's the name you got. See, Alexander, right? He came with a nationalistic spirit in his Hellenistic ways, even though we know there's ways to be wicked. He fought with the right spirit. Antiochus Epiphanes fought with the right spirit. Sarai didn't fight with the right spirit. So now, because your leader is what? As it says, I believe it's in the book of Isaiah, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. So now when you go into the scriptures like that, you see Sarai is now put to death, and it says that the residue of the people went to the land of the Philistines. Do you know that on YouTube, as pointed out in the presentation done 2 days ago on the channel, the matter of the disperse of the Hebrews, right? That they talk about a group of people in the land of Israel, even after the year 2000, and that link was put inside the description for those who are interested on the channel. More than Yeshaya history lessons, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. That they were in the land and are called African Palestinians. And he said they've been in there since the time of the judges. Yes, the judges that we read of in the scriptures. The man looked like he done came out the south. He looked like he came from the people that was on the Clotilda ship, that was the last slave ship that came to the United States. For those who do know that history, there is a place in Alabama called Africa Town, and people there say that they are descendants of those who were dropped off on the ship, and they still exist there to this day. So, brothers and sisters, these are things we care to point out for reference purposes. All right, let's continue, family. Thank you for the time with that. All right, it goes on to say here, area of the Gophna Hills. Wherefore, being greatly perplexed in his mind, he determined to go into Persia, there to take the tributes to the countries and to gather much money. Now, it goes on to say, so he left Lysias, a nobleman, and one of the blood royal, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river Euphrates unto the borders of Egypt. So from the river Euphrates to the borders of Egypt, Israel, what that sound like? That sound like what we read in Genesis. That was supposed to be the land that the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were supposed to have. So, brothers and sisters, we see no good, well, and understand that the people, they left what? Their generals over the Israelites, after the Israelites were being known for defeating their enemies. Same thing that's done, no disrespect intended, in these days and times and so forth. You understand? When, may he rest in peace, Sean Bell was assassinated or murdered, whatever term we care to use, bit 50 bullets by the police in the year 2006. I was staying in Queens at that time. And when that situation happened, no, actually, not to get too personal, I was living in Brooklyn, but I remember visiting family in Queens around that time. And it perplexed me that they kept on having police at every bus stop from, say, the Van Wyck going all the way down into Rosedale in Queens. For those who know Queens, that's a pretty large area, because you knew that somebody just might want to revolt. And I'm not here on this channel to sit there and say, let's take up arms and catch cases and be locked up. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is having a spirit that they know of us as a people. That's why they had to put their stations and their sergeants and their lieutenants and their captains and their officers to sit there and, quote, watch the people, brothers and sisters. You understand? So Israel, as we just read in Maccabees, you got to have a purpose for a fight. The Maccabees' purpose was for the fight for our lives and the laws. The dead praise not Yah, nor any that go down into silence. So it was about making sure you maintain your life to keep the laws, and so that you can be alive for your women and children. You understand what I mean? A man wants to protect his lady. That is normal. Brothers and sisters, a mother wants to protect her children. That's normal. Brothers and sisters, you understand? So let's look at this, brothers and sisters, and continue in this matter. Antiochus goes to Persia to take tributes of the countries and to gather much money. Remember, brothers and sisters, that Persia is the bear that raised itself up on one side in Daniel chapter 7, verse 5. And even though as an empire that fell, it says their lives were prolonged for what? A season and a time. Whether the season and the time each is 1,000 years, that could be left up to teachings and brothers and sisters coming together and understanding it matters. But Persia as a people did not fall when their empire fell. Just the same, when the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah fell, Israel as a people, Judah as a people did not fall. Just the kingdom / empire fell. So we want to point that out for reference purposes. By the way, ancient Israel had what you call 11 dynasties. Egypt had 32, and of the 32, you had some of them that were not even native Egyptian. Ancient Israel had 11 dynasties. All right, just want to point that out for reference purposes. Between Saul all the way down to the end of the southern kingdom, including that of the northern kingdom. So he left Lysias, a nobleman and of the blood royal, meaning of their own people's royalty, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river Euphrates unto the borders of Egypt. Remember, Sarai is already dead. So now he needs somebody else to sit there and watch what in the world is going on. If there's any questions or comments concerning this, please feel free to type it into the chat. Thank you for that, family. Let's continue. Oh, what you see there in the Goffner Hills, that's the area that we're talking about. Remember, I was trying to point out earlier, brothers and sisters, family included, about the matter of looking at this here. And I want to erase that, show with the highlighter, if I will. And then I want to show with the pen. Circle, 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 circle. The area that we're talking about for reference purposes, brothers and sisters, all right? And the area we're talking about, how it looks, okay, this is a map showing different aspects. This is important, but we'll get into that into the next presentation about why Edom is there. Idumea. We're going to talk about that next time a little bit heavier, right? Looking at it from this point, this is the area we're speaking of in part. What's the difference between, as we pointed out last time with the Maroons in Brazil or the Maroons in Jamaica going up into the mountains and the Maccabees going to the mountains? Let's continue. The matter with the Maccabees and the priests. He also overthrew the outer altar. This is coming, brothers and sisters, out of the book of Josephus, book 12. And it says this: if, say he, anyone be zealous for the laws of his country and for the worship of Elohim, let him follow me. And when he had said this, he made haste into the desert with his sons and left all his substance in the village. When you got to make that up and movement off the grid, as some talk about, you can't be on a, what? I got my laptop. No, And I say that as a brother do presentations, bruh, you wrote books, but you may not have to bring all your books when it come down to that move. May just have to sit there and get off the grid. Maybe you wrote the books, but let it be online if you got to sit there and make that move for someone else. Who knows? Just using that say as an example. You understand? It goes on to say this. And when he had said this, he made haste into the desert with the sons and left all his substance in the village. Many others did the same also, and fled with their children and wives into the desert and dwelt in caves. But when the king's generals heard this, they took all the forces they then had in the citadel at Jerusalem and pursued the Yahudim, or the Jews of Judah, into the desert. So the people of the nations were inside Jerusalem. Remember, Israel had fled out of Jerusalem, with some of them being the Maccabees and following them. We want to point that out. They, in the first place, endeavored to persuade them to repent. Pardon me. And when they had overtaken them, they, in the first place, endeavored them to persuade to repent and to choose what was most for their advantage, and not to put them to the necessity of using them according to the law of war. So what are we pointing out, brothers and sisters? Israel was in a paradox, rocking a hard place, if you will. Let me say it like that. What side do? We're hungry. We have not really eaten. It's real right now. What are we going to do? We got to defend our families. We got to defend our children. We got to defend our wives. See what they did, knowing these are the children of the Greeks that we're dealing with in these societies. You understand? Remove the man, so that way you ain't even got to sit there and have that battle whatsoever. So now it's all what? As it says in Isaiah, what? This is why in part a brother was spiritually moved in prayer to speak about the whole head being sick and to cleanse us of our sicknesses. The whole head is sick and the whole heart is faint. And the daughter of Zion is left as a vineyard in a booth. You usually put the booth in a vineyard. The daughter of Zion is left as a what? Besieged city. With Surah, a besieged city. This nation, that nation, the other nation. I was watching Netflix, not to get sidetracked, brothers and sisters. And I just happened to watch, okay, the Ladies Club or the First Ladies Club or whatever. And it's 3 seasons and it's over, say, 30 episodes. And I had the time to watch it and so forth. And I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But if you have, and it's not to sound haughty, a mindset of knowing the scriptures and seeing what Isaiah is talking about and seeing what the Maccabees was about, we're going to fight for our wives and for our children. And then you got the woman there dealing with her friend's man, disrespectful. You have the little girl in there wondering whether or not she wants to be married to a man, confusion. You have, brothers and sisters, the couple that was going to be for a brother and a sister, and I don't mean biologically, I mean ethnically. That didn't work. But all of a sudden, she found Mr. Snow White, and that's supposed to work. See, this is what we're talking about, brothers and sisters, and what we get into these kind of matters. When it says about fighting for our wives and for our children and for our lives and for our Lord. Let's continue and see where this ties in, brothers and sisters. And to bring up his son Antiochus until he came again. Moreover, he delivered unto him the half of his forces and the elephants, and gave him charge of all things that he would have done, as also concerning them that dwelt in Judah and Jerusalem, to wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and root out the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, and to place away their memorial from that place, and that he should place strangers in all their quarters and divide their land by lot. Divide their land by lot and put strangers in the land. What that sound like? That's talking about what the Greeks, brothers and sisters. The Greeks is whom this is talking about. But this was done also in the time of Joel with Hamitic nations. They divided the land by lot when you go into what? Joel chapter 3. Let's go there, if we will, brothers and sisters. I'll be reading out of the standard KJV. I will not be reading for reasonable purposes, reaching out to the people. I will not be reading out of the standard Tanakh, the Masoretic text, but rather the regular KJV. And what I'm saying is I'm not going to put black and blue anymore in the PowerPoint because I can hardly see it on my own phone. But so life lesson, definitely will change that for the future. But brothers and sisters, we're still in First Maccabees chapter 3 and what we read, but we're going to read too, brothers and sisters, thanking you all for the time. You could be anywhere else, but you chose to be here. I appreciate it. We're going to be reading, brothers and sisters, in Joel chapter 3. It goes on to say, Joel 3 verse 1 in the regular KJV, if we will. For behold, in those days and at that time, when I shall bring back the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, same names you just read in the Apocrypha. For it says, I will also gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat meaning Yah has judged, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And they have cast lots for my people. Oh, this one. Oh, what bid you? I'll pay 20 for that one. They cast lots for my people. It goes on to say, Joel 3 verse 3, and have given a boy for a harlot, and sold the girl for wine that they might drink. Do you know that harlotry and wine is what they was using in the Atlantic slave trade to barter off? That's going to be presented this coming weekend when we go into From Kemet to Compton Part 4, the last presentation on that. Stay tuned. Yea. And what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? We spoke about the Zidonians earlier, right? And all the coast of Palestine. Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Greeks, that you might remove them far from their border. So hold on. What's being spoken about here in Joel chapter 3? It speaks about the parting of the land, who went into the land, who were Hamitic nations, and placed to the children of Israel, and took the people of the Israelites and sold them to who? The Greeks, the ancestors of the Ptolemies and the Seleucids that we've been reading and talking about concerning the Hanukkah matter. So we read about Israelites in Europe, not that far-fetched. You understand? This timing of Joel predates what is referred to as the Peloponnesian War. You know, when you start talking about the Peloponnesian War that happened in the 5th century BCE and so on, what if I were to tell you that many in Greece were what you call black of today? Sidebar. What if I were to tell you that some people talk about the people of Sparta being of in part the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel, and based that movie 300 on such, for those who know of that particular matter or so on? See, what we attempt to do, being motivated spiritually by my lady who just typed in, thank you for that, bring it out of Doni. Sisters, women, y'all got power. Just seeing that right there makes a brother want to go in more. You understand? So just sidebar, but getting back to the point of this matter right here. In the book of the Apocrypha, it says that he should place strangers in all their quarters and divide their land by lot. But we already read about the people being sold to the Greeks. What happened to those Israelites that Joel talks about? Scattered. Now these elephants, now we're talking about the matter of the Greeks fighting with elephants, correct me if I'm wrong. They got that from the East Indians when Alexander went against them and what at that time was called Punjab among themselves. Herodotus called them Indians, but that's a whole other subject. Herodotus was before Alexander. But looking at this right here, this is how they wound up coming in part against the children of Israel. Whereas Israel will be fighting on their feet or on their horses or so forth and so on. All right? But like in the words of, may he rest in peace, Judean Maccabees, don't be afraid of them. Do you know, and I've never been there, and I hope none of us ever have to be in there, in jail, you know they pick on you just to see if you're going to fight. And even if you lose the fight, they'll stop bothering you. Well, those are bullies. The Greeks like that mentality is like that of a bully. You understand? So let's continue in this particular matter. Remember, it says to rid the name of Israel out of that place. Keep not thou silence, O Elohim. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O Elohim. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee. Naming some of them nations is this: the tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. We keep reading about this Tyre and Zidonians. Ashur also is joined with them. They have helped the children of Salah. Brothers and sisters, and going into this kind of matter we see here, giving honor and praise unto the Most High in Psalm chapter 83, they have taken crafty counsel to cut the name of Israel off from remembrance. In Christianity, they'll tell you God has another son, even though the Most High God in Torah said, Israel's my son, my firstborn. That's one way that they try to get the name of Israel out of remembrance. Another way, brothers and sisters, is saying, well, there's just no record of there being the Israelites, or you used the Bible. Recently, well, not too recently, but early in the year on the Gregorian calendar, right? Spoke with somebody. Well, there's no evidence outside of the Bible of there being of they of the Northern Kingdom. So when you go into in history, and you can look this up yourself, right? And you look up what is referred to. I typed it inside the Facebook matter, and I'm gonna type it here as well. Karkar. When you go into what is referred to as the Karkar battle, that is a battle that talks about Israelites fighting that is not in Chronicles, Kings, or Samuel. It mentions Ahabusiliala, which is Ahab the Israelite. You know, Ahab, Jezebel's husband. You know, Ahab that was married to the Zidonian woman from Tyre named Jezebel. Now, mind you, Jezebel in the Zidonian language and Jezebel or Isabel in Hebrew is two different meanings. Isabel, correct me if I'm wrong, is part of one of the deities of the Zidonians. In Hebrew, E is Allen. Zebel is what you use your toilet paper for. The Allen of manure. That's what Isabel means in Hebraic thought. You understand? So you can see what the Israelites thought about Ahab's lady, who was not like my lady Sarai is unto me, or like the sisters I have who are all three married to the husbands they have in respect, or like Rebecca was to Isaac in respect. A good woman doesn't say, I know you're doing wrong, but I'm going to applaud it. That's not good. You understand? Okay, we're going to sit there and we're going to get this filled. You just come back to mommy now. When we read in Genesis, it says a man shall leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife. Dabach is the Hebrew word meaning cleave. Azab means leave. Azab, leave. Dabach, cleave. You understand? Ahab going to Jezebel, he's still cleaving, looking for, say, a mommy in that particular case. Don't worry, I'll handle the battle for you. You just sit back and do nothing. Like the Willie Lynch letter, have the man behind the woman is scared. You understand? That's not good, Israel. You understand? So getting back, not to get sidetracked, looking at it like this. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon. Now, Gebal is the part of the people that was on the the western part of the land of Israel. All right. Ammon or the Ammonites, Amalek dwelt as part of the Hyksos. We're going to get into that. Or actually, we got into that in another presentation. All right. When this presentation is uploaded, you can look in the description and you will see something about the Hyksos and the history about who they were. When me and my lady was in Egypt, we actually saw in the museum the 10 of Hyksos. I present, brothers and sisters, that the 10 of Hyksos were they who fought Israel and Joshua and Rephidim in Genesis chapter 17. And later on went into Egypt and set up what you call Dynasty 15, under who the Greeks later on called Seleucids. By then the Israelites was out. Another nation was able to come in because remember, Pharaoh got his best army and they drowned. So it's easy to run shack Egypt at that point, and so forth and so on in history. But now getting back into this, these are some of the nations on the list that came up against the house of Israel, and they still want to do so. Let's continue with the time allotted. First Maccabees 3:37 in a history matter. So the king took half of the forces that remained and departed from Antioch. Antioch is in Syria. Syria is where modern day Lebanon is. Becomes important. In the 147th year, and having passed the river Euphrates, he went through the high countries. What do we see there on the right-hand side? Brothers and sisters, those were people that were shown in Egypt. You can see who they look like. Things known need not have to be stated or explained, all right, as the saying goes. But these people were shown in Egypt as tribute bearers. But you know who they were? Brothers and sisters, they were part of the Amu people. They were part of the Amu people, also called, brothers and sisters, the Retjenu people. Also, brothers and sisters, called the Retjenu people. The Egyptians called these people that. They were Arameans, people from Syria, modern day Lebanon. Why do I want to say that? Denzel Washington is under scrutiny, for the lack of a better term, because he's playing Hannibal, and they're saying that his race were not the people that Hannibal belonged to. But what people forgot, let's remember, you had Antiochus already a European inside of the lands of the Syrians. So the people that you see there now is a mixture that comes from the Ptolemy, Seleucid, Greek, mixing in, which was Alexander's style, mix it in with the people. Prior to that, the people in Lebanon, the people in Syria, the people that the Egyptians called the Amu, the Retjenu, the people that the Bible calls the Syrians or the Arameans, look like that. So let's point that out for reference purposes. See, what they want to do is give you a modern Egypt looking people, a modern Ptolemy looking Egypt, a modern Seleucid or Seleucid looking Syria or Antioch. But when you go into history, you begin to see something different. This isn't racism. This is something that's just the truth in that particular case. Let's continue, family, with the time allotted. Then Lysias chose Ptolemy, the son of Doremes, Nicanor, and Georgius, mighty men of the king's friends. And with them he sent 40,000 footmen and 7,000 horsemen to go into the land of Judah and to destroy it as the king commanded. Are you coming in deep? 40,000 footmen and 7,000 horsemen. That's 7,000 horses. One horse carried the tour guide, me and my lady, and the carriage through the sand. We was in Egypt. So you coming through with something like 7,000. You coming through full armor, as the saying goes. So they went forth with all their power and came and pitched at Emmaus in the plain country. Remember, we talked about Emmaus earlier. This is something we want to point out with the time allotted. And the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much with servants and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel for slaves. Remember, this is the silver and the gold that they got from where the Persians were. A power also of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them. So these Philistines' power that we read of in the book of Psalm 83 and other places joined themselves to go against who? Israel. And when Judas and his brothers saw that miseries were multiplied and that the forces did encamp themselves in their borders, for they knew how the king had given commandment to destroy the people and utterly abolish them, they said one to another, let us restore the decayed fortune of our people. Break it down, Israel, and let us fight for our people in the sanctuary. Let's go in. Then came the congregation gathered together, that they might be ready for battle, and that they might pray and ask for mercy and compassion. Brothers and sisters, you saw Rosewood, right? There's a part in Rosewood, the movie, where the guy was saying, let us hold in prayer. And one of the people said, I'm not in the mood for prayer, Reverend. See, let's see how this order was done. It says right here, then was the congregation gathered together, that they might be ready for battle. Be ready first. Know what your prayer is going to be about. And that they might pray. You prayed after you already knew what to pray about, where your mind was on. Before you call on your Elohim, before you call on the Most High, know where your mind is at. It goes on to say, and ask mercy and compassion. Now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. Remember, we spoke in the last presentation that Israel, Yehuda Maccabee, and others fled from Jerusalem for security. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary was also trodden down, and aliens kept the stronghold. The heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe and the harp ceased. We may not agree with everything, but in music, brothers and sisters, you know the pipe and the harp started in what you call, correct me if I'm wrong, Western Asia. It didn't start in Ireland, brothers and sisters, and this is no slander to no one. Just the same. Spaghetti didn't come from Italy. It came, correct me if I'm wrong, from China. Silk does not come from the United States. It comes from China. Just putting it in plain terms as such. So getting back, brothers and sisters, into this, it says, Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. So the people, we want to point out too, didn't come in with prayer. And there's no knock on prayer. Like my mother said, don't ever play with that because that's a serious weapon. May my Imam rest in peace. It goes on to say, they gathered together that they might be ready for battle. Unity is where the battle will be won at. In Haiti, when they won the Haitian Revolution, it wasn't through Vendôme or voodoo. It was because the people under Toussaint Louverture, the Celines, and others was united, for those who do know that. It goes on to say, and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion. They had the battle mind first before they did the prayer. They didn't sit there and have the prayer without knowing where their mind was at before their Elohim. There was a matter on how the people moved. So let's look at this, brothers and sisters. Day of the Panthers in the South Bronx. Now, this is all dated to the 70s. So when it says that Jerusalem laid in waste, that's how the Bronx looked, brothers and sisters. I was born in the Bronx. This is no pun intended. That's how it looks. Abandoned. Is that far-fetched to say how Jerusalem looked when the Maccabees were like, what in the, how? Now, when you understand the ideology of the Black Panthers, it was not even at first about battle or war, but more so about restoring certain things among the people. Did you know that today's Bloods and Crips, the gang that you see, came from that? And Jamie Foxx playing, may he rest in peace, Tookie Williams, spoke on that. Said that's not how the Crips started. Crips meaning community, revolution, and progress. I forgot what Blood stood for. But brothers and sisters, it was a matter of coming together. The Blood Gang started, according to a gentleman named Robert Greene. He has a book in the library called Bloods in Vietnam, because you had black platoons and you had other platoons. And the black platoons were being attacked. So the brothers came together. My father was in Vietnam, may he rest in peace, and was about, you know what? Blood up. That's how it started. They throw what is today blood signs, and this is not to condone gangs. They throw blood signs in the movie Dead Presidents, for those who do know it. You understand? So those things didn't start off negatively. The college that I graduated from and that I taught in part-time, brothers and sisters. BMCC started in the 1950s. And the reason why people looking like the gentleman you see there, or the people you see there, and myself, who look like us for the most part, is because the Black Panthers chained themselves to the school and said that you're going to sit there and have people looking like us getting up in there with our programs. The people of the Panthers went to Norman Lear. Norman Lear is the director and or producer of the show Good Times, and said, JJ is playing a coon. This is not to be the image of our people. People had an issue with that, for those who do know that history. So don't let the Maccabees' memory go down. Don't let the memory of the Panthers and what they was about go down into something that's not good. These are things we want to point out for reference purposes. Let's continue, family. And we close out here. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Mizpah over against Jerusalem, for in Mizpah was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes and opened the book of the law, wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likenesses of their images. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What? That's in First Maccabees 3:48. You mean they was trying to put images of the Greek stuff in our book from back then? If I can be heard well, the people in good spirits, please type in the number 4. If I can be heard well and people are in good spirits, I'm asking you, please type in the number 4. Thank you. They laid open the book of the law. Remember, the book of the Testament, which is today called the Old Testament, right? Because the Septuagint doesn't have the New Testament. That was commissioned by Ptolemy II in the 3rd century BCE. They was already trying to put images of themselves inside of our records. So I remember my mother, may she rest in peace, talking about how her great-grandmother, my mother's great-grandmother, which would be my great-great-grandmother, may she rest in peace. My mother sat there and said that she had like a big Bible and was just going through it and everything. And I said, well, how do people look? And my mother kind of looked at me with the side eye, like, how do you think? I was like, oh, you understand? Because if we are looking at it from this kind of matter, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and many of our people did not know how to read, say back then. No knock on any of our immediate ancestors. It says what? They brought also the priest garments and first fruits and tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days. Then cried they with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, what shall we do with these? And whither shall we carry them away? For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profaned, and thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagine against us, thou knowest. What things they imagine. Do you know about what happened with the women who wouldn't eat pork with her children and what they did and how they killed them? What things, that's in Maccabees chapter 7. What things were imagined to be done in slavery? You know, the children of the Greeks and Romans, no pun intended, in the United States. They would put, as we pointed out before, gunpowder in your anus and blow you up. They would sit there and cut the woman's vaginal off and wear it around their head as a diadem. These are the people that we're dealing with, brothers and sisters. So now in the time of the Maccabees, that's documented, brothers and sisters. You understand? When it says, and what things they imagine against us, thou knowest. Because the Israelites themselves didn't even understand or know what in the world these people wanted to do with them. How shall we be able to stand against them except thou, O Elohim, be our help? Then sounded they with trumpets and cried with a loud voice. And after this, Yahudah ordained captains over the people, even captains over thousands and over hundreds and over 50s and over 10s. Brothers and sisters, captains, rank and file. Can't nobody tell me. Disqualified. Next. I ain't letting nobody use me. That's the kind of spirit some of us have these days and times. You know what the problem with that is? We never go to the job with that. I ain't letting nobody use me. Because you know at the job, if you're not, quote, used, you wonder, oh, what is my purpose here? Are they going to keep me here at the job? If you're not being, quote, used at the job. But once it comes to us, sadly, in many cases these days, ain't no going to be using me. Because see, there's use and there's abuse. There's normal and there's abnormal. You understand? So we're not talking about abuse or abuse. We're talking about use and respectfulness. These are things we want to point out, brothers and sisters. Goes on to say this. Let's continue, family. Mizpah, a place to meet for centuries. Then all the Israelites from Dan to Beersheba and from the land of Gilead came as one man and assembled before Yah at Mizpah. Even all the Jews returned of Judah, Yahudah, out of all the places where they were driven, and came to the land of Judah, to Gedaliah, to Mizpah. So from Judges to centuries later in the time of Jeremiah, to centuries later in the time of the Maccabees, Mizpah was that city that Israelites would frequent and join. Why do you think they don't want the people to come together? And they can have their wants and their desires. We have to want to come together, brothers and sisters. We have to want that. You understand? And it can happen. All right? There will be a part 3. But as for such as were building houses, or had betrothed wives, or were planted vineyards, or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return, every man to his own house according to the law. So the camp removed and pitched on the south side of Emmaus. And Yahudah said, arm yourselves and be valiant men, and see ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us in our sanctuary. For it is better for us to die in battle than to behold the calamities of our people in our sanctuary. Nevertheless, as the will of Elohim is in heaven, so let him do. So, brothers and sisters, thus ends the presentation. Yehuda Maccabee is giving the people confidence, if you will. There is an intended presentation. We know it says December 15th, but we're going to postpone that from Kemet to Compton Part 4, the final. Regarding that, there's Kemet to Compton Part 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is going to be done. We intend this coming so-called Sunday, brothers and sisters, December 24th, not December 15th, which is now past. I can be reached at the number 908-587-4841. It has passed the time that I normally do these presentations. It's been over an hour. It's now Eastern Standard Time at 11 p.m. So we're going to conclude, as was the intention in this, brothers and sisters, asking you all to comment, like, share, and subscribe. The information that you see going across there is a book, brothers and sisters, that we're talking about right here, that is online on Amazon for $25 instead of $30, brothers and sisters. And that sale ends the 24th, this coming Sunday. For those who are interested, explains the history of the people who eventually became the Israelites, how the Israelite culture, the Torah, shows one to be accountable, versus the Devarim or Deuteronomy 20 is explained in detail, and how it relates to the ancient Israelites and modern Israelites, our people. The book refutes the claim that the Egypt by ships was fulfilled in the era of Titus of Rome. So here's the information regarding the book sale in that case. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the people who cash app. I appreciate. I don't. It is welcome and accepted. The people who bought books and you did not get it, it's because you asked for it to be signed, so it takes a little longer in that particular case. But I keep the people abreast on what's going on in business, for I steal not. Brothers and sisters, they give an honor and praise to the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. Comment, like, share, subscribe. May the Most High be with us all. Shalom. Let us close out in prayer. Thank you for that, family. Yah Eloheinu, Elohe Avotenu, Lord our God and God of our forefathers. Kadesh Rokenu, Kadesh Nashenu, Kemo Yehuda Hamakabi, Wagamet Hamakabi, Ashel Him, Nielku, Bishmeaka. Renew our spirits like that of the Maccabees who fought in your name. Al Toroteka wa Al Kayehem, for your laws and for their lives. Tiena im Anshenu Unshenu, be with our men and our women, Wagamet Tapenu and our little ones, Wagamet Ziknenu and our elders. Hallelujah. Amen. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Have a good night.